Welcome along to the Italian Grand Prix. It's round 15 of season 15 in Wheel2Wheel Racing AL2 Championship. And this week we're in northern Italy at one of the most historic racetracks in the world. We're at Monza. It was the third motor racing circuit in the world when it was built back in the 1920s, and in its current layout, it's a 3.6 mile circuit, just 11 corners, 4 to the left and 7 to the right, 2 DRS zones, and a lot of long straightaways. Over 80% of the lap will be taken at full throttle, and cars will reach speeds of over 220 miles per hour today. We'll have 55 laps of racing after qualifying today, and the race itself is normally the quickest race on the Formula 1 calendar. Though the tires, we are in the middle of the Pirelli range, C4, C3, and the C2. The soft tire is the quickest by about 8 tenths over the mediums, and quicker than the hards by about 1.2 seconds. We'll likely see most of our drivers go for the soft tire in qualifying as we are underway in our single 18-minute qualifying session today. Excited for another great race at Wheel2Wheel Racing.
Yeah, it should be a great race today. We've got the Force Indias straight out of the garage. Strident C will be the first to ride on board with a flying lap. We are also joined with a third commentator today with All Shot Down joining us. Welcome, All Shot.
Good evening. I'm really looking forward to being here. The race is one of my favourite tracks on the calendar, so I'm looking forward to see how close these guys can get, especially with the two main DRS straights should provide some close, especially some good entertaining and overtaking into the braking zones.
Yeah, and we saw a good bit of that on Wednesday as well, didn't we, in AL1. We had a pack of 4 all cross the line within a second of each other. Really great stuff.
Yeah, quite a difficult track to navigate as we see Strident C coming round Parabolica, the final turn, coming round to the start-finish straight, which is a 1.1 kilometre straight. And turn 1 is a very sharp right-hand chicane. So as we ride on board, braking hard at the 100-metre board, tight into turn 1, turn 2 left-hand. Critical to get a good exit down here as you go around Curva Grande for turn 3. A lot of slipstream will be required down here to chase down your rivals and getting the undertake done into turn 4 and 5 as we come round here. Big sausage curves on the inside that will unsettle your car. Then round to turn 5, which is a first Lesmos. Very tight corner there. Round to turn 7, which is the second Lesmos. Important to get your exit right there because this is the first DRS zone. Sorry, the second DRS zone, as you're coming down to Ascari, which is a very tight technical section again, turn 8, 9 and 10. This is where David Coulthard famously lost it on his formation lap. Big long straight now in sector 3, where you've got the second DRS detection zone. Hard braking into Parabolica. And then good exit required to come down this long straight as we cross the line with Strident C taking a 1:20.3 for provisional pole. So as we can see, a lot of the drivers are opting for that soft tyre. Any tyre that they finish the qualifying on in the top 10 they will have to start the race on. So who have we got? Appleplex has snatched that provisional pole off Strident C with a 1:20.2.
We've got Old Dad's Rule coming through the Parabolica now. Just start, I think he's just come to the end of his flying lap here. We see interesting how close he is to his teammate and compared to the Mercedes that's holding the provisional pole. Sneaks it in just behind him P3. Maybe room for improvement. We'll have to see as the session progresses. Could have been a bit of traffic. Be along. Still 30 minutes left to go, so anything can happen.
Ferrari of a letdown estate, popping it into third with a 1:20.5 there. There's not that many cars out on track. We've only got 12 in the session, but it seems to be quite a slow start to the qualifying session here.
And some more times coming in as Steve-O and CHM and Prev all cross the line, setting their first timed lap of the session. Nothing to read into too much this early in the session. The drivers will get 3 runs in if they want.
But we have Ted.
Ted just starting his lap on the mediums by the looks of it. Just an interesting strategy going into this race.
Ted in the Williams car. I could tell you that the 2020 Grand Prix that was here was the last official race for the Williams family before they handed over the team to the buyer.
It was an emotional weekend for Claire Williams, whole family. And not a bad race either that weekend.
A crazy race. No one, I don't think anybody could have predicted that podium. Gasly on the top, Sainz on the second, Stroll on the third.
Yeah, the two Mercedes nowhere to be found that day.
Yeah, Hamilton having to serve his 10-second penalty in the pits for the entering the pits whilst it was closed, and Ted comes across the line with a 1:22.0, so that's quite a reasonable time on the mediums in comparison to CHM, because as we said that the medium tyres are about 0.8 slower than the softs.
And with the soft tire being that much quicker, and the drivers aren't going to have a huge difficulty with tire degradation at this track compared to most. So I think normally the soft tire would be the way to go. But a couple of drivers out on the mediums, we'll see if they stick with that for the rest of the session. Still plenty of time to get onto the softs and set a lap on those if they want.
Got just Mikey starting his first flying lap, who's our current standing leader, who Allshot will be going through that on the 5-minute break as to where we are in the standings. Good break and a nice control around the first chicane. Nice and tight on the inside of the Curva Grande. So as we close off sector 1, he gets a purple sector with a 26.6. Just Mikey has had some good records here at Monza, so he's probably feeling quite favourable for a top finishing position today. As we come around the Les Mis, he opens his DRS, coming down, heading towards Ascari, and there's a Ferrari just pulling out of his way there. Good sector 2, not purple.
Yeah, but that toe will definitely give him those extra couple of tenths that will go towards his time at the end. That'll definitely help him.
That's it. I wonder if we'll see any teammates going out giving each other a toe as they come around the track. Because the toe will be almighty powerful around here, as Matt said, with 80% full throttle around the track. And as the Renault car crosses the line, he goes into second place with a 1:20.2, only just behind the Mercedes of Appleplex.
Yeah, overall I think that was a good lap from our championship leader Mikey. I think that sector 2, where he might have been just taking it a little bit easy around the Lesmo corners, making sure to just keep it within the track limits and get a time up there on the board. So I feel like maybe a little bit more time for Mikey to gain. But overall, smooth lap for his first time.
Alistair just sneaking in a time there just off camera. I didn't catch that one, but with a 1:19.9, first
wow.
break under the 1:20s. Really showing these P3 in the standings at the moment. Really showing he's got a point to prove this weekend, trying to come back at Mikey for the second half of the season.
Bannister has typically got some quite good pace, and I think if I remember correctly, his Belgian Grand Prix did not go to a good start.
No,
so
not at all.
He'll be looking to redeem his lost points there. So I think he had a disconnection and he had some trouble getting back into his car.
Yeah, his race was really over before it started last week. Bannister. He'll be looking to make up for it, and right now he's put himself in a really good position.
I don't know about you guys, but I will be keeping an eye on Steve-O during this Grand Prix, coming off the back of 5 wins. It really is. He's got all his momentum behind him. It'll be really interesting to see what he can do with it here today. Really take the fight to the top too. Really, you know, just to stomp his authority, not only over Bannister, but try and get that gap close to Mikey as well.
He's always had really quick quali pace, but I think at the start of the season he was struggling with his 100% racecraft, but he's certainly been working on that. And as you say, the last 5 races having taken the top step, really he has got a point to prove here to try and maintain that race win streak. But Bannister is really holding the line where Steve-O is going to have to try and improve by at least 4 attempts to beat that time.
Just coming down to the parabolica now, so it'll be interesting to see what his time is when he comes back round here. I don't know if my telemetry on my system's gone here, but it's no ERS deployment at all on my screen here.
Yeah, I think he's on an in lap.
He's in his lap now. Yeah. I'll explain it then.
Chewy with a good time there, with a 120.3.
He had a good showing on Wednesday, to be fair, making it through. Kept up with the relevant pack. I'm pretty sure he gave you a little bit of a run for your money at some point.
He did, but we was I think we was battling for the last point.
Still a point though at the end of the day, so it was nice to see him definitely showing what he can do. So it'll be nice to see how that transforms into this league.
Right, we look to have a dry race, sunny qualifying, and a cloudy race, overcast race. So a few cars on an out lap. We'll see what they can do. Quite tight times there.
As of now, we have the only drivers that have gone for a lap on the mediums are at 11th and 12th, so not really much to gain there by being on the mediums, so we'll see if they try to get 1 lap in on the softs here at the end of the session.
Yeah, because 11th and 12th they get free tyres choice at the start of the race anyway, so they could have saved the tyre wear if they wanted to start on the mediums.
So you mentioned about seeing if any teammates are going to go out together. I saw the 2 racing points on track, fairly close, but I think I don't know if it was planned or not, but not close enough to give the second driver a total.
Strident, I've just seen get a purple sector 1.
Old Dad's Rule came through the purple sector 1 shortly after.
So
they're both of them really pushing each other.
Perhaps a bit of track development as we're in the final 4 minutes. We'd have a really green rubbered in track when the Strident gets a purple sector 2.
And then Old Dad Rules follows straight up again, going that little bit faster, purple sector 2 for him, so it's going to be very close to this final sector. And it's invalidated the lap actually for Old Dad's Rule.
Oh, no.
A bit too much curb in Ascari.
Strident coming round Parabolica. What is going to be his time as he crosses the line? He improves only by 70,000th of a second, which puts him into 5th place.
It's enough to jump both the Ferraris who practically set identical times. So, still 2 positions. Be interesting to see what Chewy and that down state can do.
There is only 2 tenths between 2nd and 8th. That is crazy times.
Only 2 thousandths between 4th and 5th as well. They're very close.
Can CHM improve his time? He does improve by 4 tenths and puts him into 9th place with a 120.8.
So far looking very reminiscent of the actual Italian Grand Prix we had there with the Mercedes holding them to so far. Be interesting to see if anyone can split those guys. Hopefully a Red Bull, but time will tell.
Well, maybe the AlphaTauri. Maybe there will. Maybe Steve-O is in Gasly's car and is looking for his. I wouldn't say his maiden win, but his 6th in a row. And Strident has just put it into P1 with a 119.7.
Riding on board with Steve-O. He has improved through Sector 2, but he invalidates his lap on the exit of Ascari.
So
Steve-O will have time to get one more lap in, but right now 5th, which is not where we expect him to be, given his recent form.
He was 3 tenths up, which could have put him in 2nd or 3rd. So he has got capacity to get that time in.
Riding on board with a letdown state, he put 2 tenths up through the first sector, had a little bit of a moment through the second left, so he comes down into Ascari. Bit too much curve, and again, another driver to just invalidate the lap on that inside. Ascari as you turn in.
Appleplex backed off on his lap.
We've got Chewy coming up the track behind him as well, actually. Coming down into Ascari. He's, again, just under 2 tenths quicker, and again, it's that left-hand corner going into Ascari. Too much curve. I think some of these drivers didn't get the memo.
Well, there was quite a few penalties on Wednesday night in the AL1 League.
I think the penalties discussed in the AL1 League need to just be left in the AL1 League. I think we should just leave them there, thank you.
Well, I thought I could discuss it because I didn't get any penalties on Wednesday.
Ooh. Yes, precisely, yes. Yeah, you had none and I had a couple.
Meanwhile, we have Steve-O on another lap after he invalidated his last lap. He had a purple Sector 2, so he does look to be improving. We'll see by how much as he comes around Parabolica.
That's a very good time.
And I think he ran out of fuel as he was coming to the line.
It looks like we're going to have a response from Mikey here, though. He's just going down through Sector 1 now. Going into the chicane of 4 and 5, he's just under a tenth up as well on those times, so seeing how close it is going to get at the top there. Nice and tight line from the first Lesmos, keeping the speed up. A little bit of a kick on the rear. Coming into the second right-hander now. Nice and easy. He's kept the momentum going. It'll be interesting to see how much battery deployment he's going to have as well to come out of the Parabolica. As we come down to the end of Sector 2 now, it'll be interesting to see how close he is to the end of his split. Just off a bit slower, so it's all going to be down to this final sector to see if he can make up any ground and get those positions to make that all-important race start here, just that bit higher up.
Oh, and Chewy improves, and he puts him just in front of Mikey.
And our championship leader, he improves, but doesn't change his position. He'll be starting 6th.
And that rounds off our qualifying session, because Steve-O is the only one able to set another lap, but he has invalidated and is going quite slow now, so
he is out of fuel. Steve-O, he was coming out of Parabolica, and then I think just before he got to the line, his car started slowing down. I wonder if maybe his lap time might have been slightly affected by running out of fuel there, because it was really close. It was almost at the exact same time as he crossed the line, he ran out of fuel.
But an incredible show from Strident C to take pole there. The Racing Point in the final position in the Constructors. standings, so he will be looking to take a haul of points today if he can carry that quali pace through to the race.
I was going to say he's sitting there in 11th in the drivers' standings at the moment. He's got a couple drivers, not too many points in between them. I can see he's only 1 point off getting into the top 10, and then it's 7th to the next guy up. So if he can convert this, following it through to the race, definitely could see him jumping up the championship standings coming soon. But as we do come through to here, if you guys don't mind, I'll just quickly recap over the championship standings that we do have.
Well, let's go through the qualifying, and then we'll go through the standings on the 5-minute break. So that rounds off our Italian Grand Prix qualifying session when we have Strident Sand on pole with a 119.7. Then we have Bannister in second place, Steve-O in third, Appleplex in fourth, Chewy in fifth, Just Mikey in sixth, A Letdown Estate in seventh, Old Dads in eighth, CHM in ninth, Sega to Cars in 10th, Prev in 11th, and Ted in 12th. Ted and Sega are the only two to set their time on the medium tyres. Everybody else is on the softs.
Right, so if it's all okay with you guys, I will now time in at the right point here, not get in the way. Just recap over the driver standings as we do come into the round here at Monza. As we stated earlier, Mikey holding the lead in the championship, currently sitting top with a 38-point gap to second place in the standings, which we have is Steve-O. So it'll be interesting to see if he can regain any points back on Mikey today. Bannister, who had a good show in qualifying, he's sat in third, again, 59 points off the leader, he's sitting at 165 points, and then it's only a small deficit to the first Ferrari that we do have in the standings, which we do have there is Dastardly, followed up by A Letdown Estate. So the two Ferrari guys very high up in the standings at the moment with 161 points there as well. Just behind that, we do have Sega and then CHM bringing up 6th and 7th in standings. And then we do have Pez and Tad coming in at 9th and 10th, rounding up the top 10. And like we mentioned, Strident, our pole sitter, coming in at 11th place in the standings. If he can convert this race today, he will definitely be reaping the rewards today as well. I'm going to be really intrigued to see how the Constructors' battles plays out as well, because we have Renault leading coming into this round with 312 points, but with Ferrari just sitting behind them on 48. So can this be the Tifosi's dream race here? Can the Ferraris really put on a good show for them? Unfortunately, like we haven't seen in the real-life season, it would be nice to see if they can do it here today. It'd definitely make it interesting from my point of view. I don't know if you guys would disagree, but I think it'd be definitely a good show.
Well, funny you mentioned the real-life Monza. Consecutive wins for Constructors. Ferrari holds the title with 20 wins for Constructors at Monza. Then in second is McLaren with 10, and third is Mercedes with 9th. So although they're not doing very well at the minute, and Ferrari's home race being the Italian Grand Prix, Ferrari throughout history have had a good innings at Monza.
It'll definitely be interesting to see what Chewy and A Letdown Estate can do then, if they can withhold the Ferrari name and uphold it, in regards to this.
Always means more for Ferrari when they win at Monza. We saw in 2019 just incredible scenes after Charles Leclerc was able to win for Ferrari. And just a few minutes until lights out, we'll remind you of the tire situation. We are in the middle of the Pirelli range, and the soft tires, which I believe just about everybody is on from qualifying, so they'll be starting on the softs. They can go a maximum of 26 laps, but this first stint will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 to 20 laps. The medium tires can go a maximum of 34 laps, but the ideal race window about 25 to 28 laps, and then the hard tires, the slowest with the longest life, can go a maximum of 43 laps. Ideally, no more than 35 laps as they start to fall off in terms of pace. So 55 laps of racing. Time-wise, it is normally the quickest race in Formula One because of high speeds and only 55 laps that they do. So always an exciting one in terms of battles, and this league is normally doesn't disappoint when it comes to battling. So
No.
we'll see what our drivers provide us with today.
I had a comment on my stream from James Anderson saying, that lap from me I'm happy with. The only problem is I don't know who James Anderson is in relation to the drivers on our track. So interesting to see who James Anderson would be and who's happy with their lap. I'm sure quite a few people was happy with their lap there, but as I say, the second separating, I think, the top 8.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it's always nice to see that beautiful Racing Point car starting on the front row of the grid. I don't know what it is about that car, but it just always looks nice when it's up there.
Well, there was a Racing Point on the podium here this season in the real F1, so are we going to see a Racing Point on the podium after this race?
I was just thinking, to be fair, you could still class it as a Mercedes one too, you know. Some people saying the Racing Point is the Mercedes version 2.0, so still managing to get 3 out of the 4 places at the front.
Strident C managed a 9th place in the final standings last season at the Italian Grand Prix, so let's see what he can do today.
It's not going to be easy for him to keep that lead, though. Bannister and Steve-O, probably the 2 maybe quickest drivers in terms of raw pace that we have in this league, right behind him on the starting grid, 2nd and 3rd. And then it will also be interesting watching Mikey as he maybe doesn't have his best qualifying performance down in 6th, but as we've seen time and time again with Mikey, it doesn't seem to matter where he starts on the grid, he always makes his way through the pack and gets a good race result, and that's why he is our championship leader. He always seems to perform well in the race.
Yeah, great consistency from the Renault drivers. I believe they are still the only team that has had both cars finish in the points every single race. So they'll be looking to continue that trend as we are coming up to the lights, forming up the grid, ready for the Italian Grand Prix.
Well, the drivers are locked into their grid positions and we are ready to get underway. 5 lights are out. Boogity, boogity, boogity. We are underway here at Monza, and Striding gets away well and he covers off Bannister. Taking the inside line into turn 1, he keeps his lead. Steve-O trying to make something happen down the outside, challenging Bannister. But Strident keeps his lead and Bannister keeps 2nd, Steve-O in 3rd.
Top 4 keeping all their starting positions. Just Mikey and Letdown Estate both gained a position on Chewy.
I know Just Mikey really had to make sure that car was as wide as he could as he went into turn 1. He had both Ferraris either side of him and he did very well, no contact, and still managed to stay in the car.
Bannister looking to have a go at the outside through the Lesmos. Can't make it stick as he has to back out, and Strident defending for his life here on the opening lap, and we have somebody going wide there. And a bit of contact with the Mercedes and the Ferrari.
Yeah, Apple Place wide around the outside of Just Mikey as he gained yet another position on this first lap.
He's already up to 4th. What a start from him. I feel like we say that almost every week.
Strident making a great opening lap here, keeping his race winning position so far. Just Mikey now having a look on the inside of Steve-O around Parabolica.
It's the fellow Renaults being attacked by the Red Bull further back for Mike. It's CHM and Fred going side by side on Parabolica. CHM getting a better drive and then actually capitalising this into an attack into Seagate in front to try and gain that extra position upfield.
So this is where we have to ignore our standings on the top left of the screen because they always go weird on lap 2. So So as we can see, most drivers at the top 4 have kept their position. Just Mikey gained 2 places there. And
Prev is off in Sector 1.
He was running very close to the likes of CHM, Seagate and all of that when they were coming into that first chicane, so maybe possible bit of contact running through the, running up to the turn 4 there.
We also have Ted. Ted seemed to be in a spin. Got a predicted pit strategy for Strident. He's looking to do a one-stop pitting on lap 22 for some mediums.
And if he can pull a Perez in that car and get those tyres to last as long as he would in real life, I don't see why that couldn't work here today.
Yeah. Pezzarino had a good outing last season here, doing a one-stop.
However, last season the two-stop was more favourable for first and second. Both came through there. Mikey finishing second last season with a two-stop, so definitely no stranger to getting on the podium with a preferred strategy.
No, and he's hunting down that podium position from Steve-O. He's still on the gearbox of that AlphaTauri, and he's looking to claim that position as soon as he can. Mikey with a lot more ERS saved up. Steve-O's used a lot of his on these opening laps already.
I think Trev goes into the pits there, maybe took some damage when he had to spin, or maybe just overheating the tyres.
Very close battle back here in 9th and 10th.
Trev taking a new front wing and a fresh set of softs as well, so going for another quick stint in these tyres to get himself back up to the back.
DRS activated this lap, and we have 2 cars with penalty points now, but we've got a 3-way battle for 8th place between Sega Cars, CHM and Old Dads. Steve-O and Bannister will be kicking themselves for that penalty so early in.
Yeah, it's never
and
a nice
now
feeling.
Bannister might be in a bit of danger here as he's out of DRS range of Strident in front, but both Steve-O and Mikey with DRS behind.
The CHM is making a move on Strident, and it's easily done with this DRS. He's well in front before the braking zone, but he goes a little bit deep. And he goes wide on the exit of the chicane. Sega Cars have to take an evasive action, which also puts Old Dads on the back foot as well.
Bannister now able to close the gap to Strident, so he will get DRS as well. So we'll DRS train up the front behind our leader in the Racing Point.
Mikey's still hanging on to the end of that train as well though, so 3 cars following that Racing Point, all with DRS. Be interesting to see how he can defend against those guys, especially down into turn 1.
Appleplex had a great exit out of Ascari there. He's having a look on the inside of a letdown estate, and he's ahead.
Going to be interesting to see if Bannister did get DRS, because that time it did just tick over 1 second as they went into the parabolica, and Bannister has not got DRS this lap. So Strident did enough to actually keep the car ahead there, leaving Bannister to pull back a bit into with Steve-O.
Appleplex made that move on a letdown estate, but a letdown estate was behind in the DRS detection zone, which meant he had DRS to retake the position down the start-finish straight. And Old Dads has gone across the chicane, so he's gave the positions back to CHM and Sega through that mistake. There's almost too many battles going on to follow, but it's a very tight battle here at the front as Old Dads picks up a 3-second time penalty. All top
4 can keep this up all race, it would be great.
All top 4 cars having DRS on each other, and just Mikey is having a look on the inside before Ascari. Yes.
Mikey's got the move done, he's up into 3rd.
He's up in the 3rd, and he will have DRS on Bannister.
I think the difference there between Mikey and Steve-O is that Mikey has been able to save up his overtake really smartly and is able to deploy it, and Steve-O didn't have much to defend with there.
No, and Steve-O dropped out of DRS range as Mikey overtook him, so Steve-O has no ERS or overtake this lap.
Bannister going a little bit deep into turn one, able to sort of correct it on the exit, but Mikey right behind.
Focusing on that down the stage, still squabbling for position over the DRS set. Neither of them can seem to really leave each other alone, and we've got the second Ferrari Chewy just kind of sat there behind watching, waiting to maybe strike and make his move.
Just Mikey's having a look on the inside of the first Les Mis, but Bannister pulls him in very tight.
Oh, that was just a car's width, I think, left from Bannister. Not much room for Mikey to work with on the inside there.
That's allowed to.
He's now back into the DRS zone again, back up, pulling himself back in.
Mikey with a much better exit out of Ascari than Bannister in front, and he's got overtake to work with. Is he going to try to go round the outside at Parabolica?
Mercedes has got phenomenal straight line speed, but I think that's given Mikey a better line through the exit, but Mikey has no ERS at this moment. He'd reached his deployment limit at the time, but Bannister is gaining on Strident.
Placing his car very well into turn one, making sure he doesn't leave the inside open, making sure he doesn't ruin his line either, so he can still hold that position to get a nice drive out of turn two.
Yeah, he's right in the middle of the track, and Bannister was really compromised because Bannister had to stay inside of him, and really not the ideal line being that far inside as Bannister was going into turn one.
You can really see Bannister is now trying to get past Strident. He doesn't want to have Mikey coming back in. He wants to try and get ahead of that racing point and maybe try and make a bit of breathing room.
I think Mikey's got more downforce on his setup because he's all over him on this second sector.
Oh, Mikey getting a little loose there out of the second Lesbron.
Just jump back to the two Ferraris here, who are nose to tail pretty much going through the two Lesmos here. Let Bannister stay ahead of his teammate Chewy. Be interesting to see if there's going to be any team orders here. Any Fernando is faster than you, or are they just going to race it out? Nearly actually running into the back of the letdown estate there. A little bit of a lock-up going into Ascari, compromised his run down into the Parabolica. So should still have the RS, and might be able to regain a bit of composure. Maybe try again next lap.
Both Mikey and Bannister are using their overtake to try and gain on their rivals as much as they can.
Strident going very defensive there, covering off the inside once again. This time Bannister switches to the outside, but still not able to make a move into turn one.
Strident is doing an excellent job leading this race for 8 laps.
Let down state, serving some form of penalty maybe though. Definitely held in the box a lot longer than normal. Got a fresh set of tyres on the car as well, so maybe trying an alternate strategy, get a bit of free airs, put on the mediums. So
Mikey got a brilliant exit.
They just can't leave each other alone, can they?
Mikey is all over the back of this Mercedes and he's got phenomenal speed as we head down to Ascari, and he's on the inside, he's taking the position. Can he hold it?
That's the braver on the brakes.
No, but Bannister is now outside of DRS range of Strident, so this is Mikey's chance to capitalise on the fact that he will have a faster straight line speed coming down here with his DRS open.
Steve-O's managed to just creep back into that DRS range as well, while Bannister and Mikey keep having these little battles. It is giving Strident the breathing room, but it's just giving Steve-O that extra chance to try and get back into the DRS zone. Try and keep up with those top three.
I think Bannister's got phenomenal straight line speed on that Mercedes. He must have not much very front wing at all, but he had a really bad exit out of turn 2, and Mikey is having a look around the outside of Curve Grande. And he's got the move done.
The move Fernando would have been proud of, that was.
Just Mikey up into second place, having gained 4 positions in these first 9 laps.
Yeah, Bannister just went a little bit too deep into turn 1, and that really compromised that whole chicane for him. He wasn't able to get a decent exit. Mikey did. Mikey was right there to take advantage of Bannister's mistake and is up into second.
Mikey now needs to chase down this racing point of Strident, because at the moment Bannister has DRS on Mikey, but Mikey has no DRS to defend. Mikey is closing the gap to the Force Racing point and opening the gap to the Mercedes behind him.
Only if the Renault and the real season had the straight line speed to compete against the Mercedes.
And just Mikey taking the fastest lap off Chewy there.
Further back, we might have a battle between a Renault and a Racing Point for 7th.
Oh, and we have a retirement.
Lost mark for Ascari coming through that final left-hander. Car flicked on him, took things a bit too much curve, a bit like what we saw on Wednesday, and unfortunately with myself and a couple other drivers. And that last left-hand curve through Ascari can unsettle the car, and unfortunately it can end your race.
At the moment that's looking like just a double yellow. That's not going to lead to a safety car as the obstruction is taken away and the track is green.
Very interesting to see how Strident can defend against Mikey. We've seen how we can place that car against Bannister. Or as Mikey has a bit of a weird run for Ascari, lost a bit of momentum there, so don't believe he'll take the DRS now through the parabolic.
We've got a tight battle for 7th place between Old Dad CHM and Sega Takoz also joining behind, as Old Dad's went a little bit loose on the exit of Ascari. Everybody else spread out now by at least 1 second, so top 7 not benefiting from DRS. Whether CHM and Sega will get DRS down this start-finish straight, but Old Dad's is coming in. So 11 laps and he's wanting to take these soft tyres off.
Very early pit stop.
I think some people, whether it's strategy or driving style, the softs don't seem to last very long at all.
We did have a few people mention on Wednesday how there wasn't too much difference between the 1-stop, 2-stop, or even possibly a 3-stop. So maybe Old Dad's rule is just going for that bit of more of an aggressive tactic to try and get those extra points for the constructors during this race.
Strident running deep on the second Les Miles there, which is allowing Mikey to close this gap. He's still outside of the DRS range as Mikey gets a purple sector 2 again. Driving the curb a lot through Ascari, so he's got a lot of control in that car.
Beaver just keeps dipping in and out of that 1 second mark as well on Bannister, just trying to get that DRS so he can launch his attack again.
So Mikey with DRS, but he doesn't have much overtake, so I think he's going to be banking a couple laps, because I know he likes to have that overtake ready.
Bannister's in for another set of softs by the looks of it, so maybe trying to get that undercut on the guys in front, get a bit of free air, fresh tyres.
The undercut here is quite powerful. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out, because Bannister was right up there in the battle for a podium position. But Strident still leading this race after 12 laps. Fantastic job from the Racing Point driver there. But Mikey is definitely on the attack as he's well within the DRS range now, and he's got DRS on the way down to Ascari. Saving up his overtake, he's now nearly up to 60%.
Racing Point in front as well, running very low on ERS deployment, so if he's not too careful he might not have too much of a battery left to defend going into turn 1.
And he picks up another penalty going wide. Or is that his first penalty? Let's have a look.
I believe that's his first.
No, that's his second. So Strident has 2, Stevo has 1, Chewy has 1, Bannister has 1, and Old Dads has 2. Mikey much closer this time, but again he's saving his overtake. It's a very clever move, something slightly reminiscent between myself and Allshot from our AL2 season battle.
Oh, I still have nightmares of looking in my rearview mirror and seeing a Red Bull set right behind me. 30 odd laps. I've been able to shift him.
I mean, there's no point trying to get the overtake done when you've got 12% overtake. Just bank for a couple laps, keeping that slipstream, keeping that DRS range until you've got enough to overtake and run away.
Just like our old days as well, it always seems to be a Racing Point / Force India in front. It seems it just has to be there to tow you along.
Just Mikey, my old teammate, doing a grand job here, carrying on the trend.
I don't know the exact time loss here for a pit stop, but I would assume it's within the 20 to 25 second range because Bannister is just above 25 seconds off the leader himself. So Bannister's definitely making the use of this undercut on those fresh softs.
Sega's medium tyres developing well in comparison to CHM's softs. So I think they're going to be dropping off now, as he seems to be closing that gap to CHM pretty well. Talking of closing gaps, just Mikey is closing the ground on Strident.
And just looking at Mikey down into turn 1, he doesn't look too concerned with getting in front of the Racing Point. He knows the penalty situation, so even though he's behind the Racing Point on track, he is really in front of him.
At this
and
point,
Mikey's just taking advantage of this time to save up as much overtake as he can. He's probably saving fuel as well. Will help him later in the race.
Although at this point in the race, looking at the guys on the soft tyres, a lot of people have swapped them off now, so I think Mikey will be looking to not use too much of his tyre wear, being too aggressive, just trying to save what he's got and take his tyres for as long as he needs for his strategy.
Well, I don't know how those tyres must be feeling for those guys, but Bannister's now got the gap down to 24 seconds, so he's pulling in, well, he's gaining on the leading pair by just under a second a lap at the moment, so this undercut definitely is powerful, Blue, you are right.
Just Mikey now with 90% battery, in fact 100% battery, and Strident with 19. Strategy really coming into play now, as you say. Bannister closing that gap. He's just put in the fastest lap with a 1:24.2.
He's been very fortunate with traffic as well. He caught up to the back of Chewy, and Chewy went into the pit, so he's not really had anyone in front of him to really battle and try and get round. The next car's up the road ahead of him. We've got Sega and CHM about 3 seconds up the road, and they're having their own little battle. So interesting to see if he does catch the Sega on the mediums, and if CHM does try to make those softs last a little bit longer.
Yeah, meanwhile, Chewy with a nice move on Ted, getting himself into 8th. Chewy on those fresh medium tires, so he'll have good pace. Mikey's still just saving that overtake, sitting behind the Racing Point.
So I'd like to think he's going to deploy it this lap.
He's very close, isn't he?
And there we go, he's got his overtake on. He's in DRS range, his DRS is open. He's turned his overtake off again. Why has he done that?
Let's see if he goes for moves.
Fantastic control there through turn 1 and 2, but he gets loose on the exit because he turned his overtake on. So he delivered much more power to them rear tyres than I think he was expecting, which has dropped him back, which means he can't take the overtake on this section of the track.
Speaking of CHM and Sega, CHM's now coming to the pits to get rid of those soft tyres, and he slapped on a set of mediums. Sega's still going on his mediums there. Interesting to see where he ends up after all the cars who do get back onto the same strategy. Bannister again now only 1.4 seconds behind. So shouldn't be too much of a trouble you to expect around here, especially on a fresh set of softs compared to those warm mediums.
Chewy just set the fastest lap on a set of mediums. So Chewy faster than Bannister on them red tyres on a set of
Chewy
yellows.
did get the help of DRS on that lap and made an overtake into turn 1, which he was able to get the move done really before braking, so didn't lose him any time, but he did gain off the DRS. That may have been a factor.
Mikey doesn't seem to be wanting to use his overtake too much right now. I'm struggling to understand his logic unless he does not want to get in front of Strident. That could be the only explanation.
Should be sitting back saving fuel, biding his time.
Further down now, here comes Bannister on Sega to cause. On those fresh soft tires, he has DRS down the main straight, and he's got the move done as they break into turn 1. Bannister making up a lot of ground, making up a lot of time on our leaders on those fresh soft tires.
Down to 21.5 seconds now.
Yeah, we'll see how that strategy plays out after the leaders pit.
We know that the weather forecast is clear, so we won't have any sort of major strategy decisions involving any wet weather crossover. The only thing that could throw a strategy here would be a safety car.
Definitely seemed to mix things up on Wednesday, didn't it, for you also?
Oh, and Mikey is in.
It's definitely going to be close between Bannister and Mikey, especially on pit exit.
And Bannister just coming round Parabolica now. He seems like he's probably going to be
I think he'll be ahead. Bannister.
I think he will be well ahead.
Mikey's just put a fresh set of mediums on as well.
The fastest lap to go with it for Bannister. And he's well ahead of our championship leader, Mikey. Undercut really powerful there.
Mikey as well has just come out behind the Williams and Sega on those old mediums still, so maybe he was trying to get into that gap, maybe just one lap too many.
But he gets out in front of his main current rival, Steve-O. But Steve-O is on the softer compound, so can Steve-O challenge Mikey?
Strident running very low on the battery deployment, almost down to 5% going into Parabolica. I think he's really giving it everything he's got to keep this car up in front of it, and he now dives into the pits as well. So it'll be interesting to see where he does come out compared to the likes of Mikey and Steve-O. I believe Bannister should definitely clear him.
Mikey very rapidly caught the back of Sega to Cos to the point where Mikey will have DRS down the start-finish straight, and he's got clear of the DRS of Steve-O.
Strident with a fresh set of mediums as he's just about to come out the pit exit now even. Bannister goes through. Mikey coming up very close here, and Strident has left. It's going to be close into turn 1. Very close. For all three of these cars.
Oh,
That is very
getting
close
it done.
racing.
Mikey definitely made that move stick, and he had to get it done there and then.
That's some fantastic driving by all of our drivers there.
Mikey, we saw during the first stint how patient he was with the racing point. Didn't really go for a move, but he wasn't wasting any time there as he saw the opportunity to get through and made it stick around the outside of turn 1 and through turn 2.
It'll be interesting to see now if Strident can now show what he's got, what he can do. If he can come back at Mikey now, it'll really be interesting. Just to kind of prove that not only can he defend, but he can attack as well.
And he does have DRS down into Ascari.
Yeah, Strident really challenging Mikey there. So there might be a few position changes here as Strident is right on the back of the gearbox of Mikey.
Thought about having a little move into Parabolic, and I think that just compromised the rest of the corner for him. He's closing quick now. Does he have enough straight to get the move done? He switches to the inside. Late on the brakes, and he looks to be in front. Yes, he is. Strident able to get that position back.
Nice clean moves there, but just Mikey is already on the inside, but he takes too much ground.
I know, but I think Steve-O is definitely going to be a dark horse, so he just keeps sitting back and he's just there, sat on a fresh set of soft tyres as well. So it'd be interesting if he can, start to get involved with this fight. He keeps sitting around that 1 second mark, getting that DRS, getting pulled along by these other guys on the mediums, maybe trying to extend his stint as well with half those tyres.
Bannister closing that gap to Appleplex. It was 14 seconds earlier, now 13 and a half. Strident using as much track as possible to get round Ascari.
I'm impressed by the recharge rate of that racing point at the moment. That battery deployment, I don't think I've seen it going any higher than 40% so far. He's been using every bit of energy he can get out of that car every lap after lap, so he's definitely giving it all he's got to show what he can do with it.
Steve-O just outside DRS.
I think we may see a similar situation here with Mikey and Strident. Oh, and Mikey goes deep.
Very deep.
Into the first chicane. But now he's trying to use overtake to make up the ground again, but I think we might see a similar situation between these two as we did in the first stint. Mikey just sitting behind and saving up his overtake. It's unusual that we see Mikey with as little overtake as he has now, around 30%.
No, but I think he's trying to maintain a distance from Steve-O at the same time as just follow the slipstream of Strident.
Yeah, Steve-O on the softer tire as well, so that will play a factor for sure.
A shout out to Stealth commenting on the stream. How do, boys? How do, Stealth? One of our ex-wheel-to-wheel drivers.
I'll say, long time no see.
Mikey just inside that DRS window, or teetering inside now. Is he going to be inside crossing the detection point?
Strident comes out into the start-finish straight here with only 6% battery deployment. Down to 2, down to 1. His battery, he's got no battery deployment left, so surely Mikey can jump on the snap.
Appleplex is now pitted, which puts Bannister in the race lead.
Showing that undercut really did pay off on those softs as well. 4 seconds clear after the first round of stops.
Yes, but he's now 9 laps into his stint, and I think, was it lap 12 he pitted?
Yeah, very
so he might be only having a couple more laps on them soft tyres.
Yeah, it just depends on what strategy he wants to go with, because he can make them last somewhere around 20 laps if he wants to stretch them out. Just depends on how many stops he wants to go for. He still has to use the medium tire. So soft medium is still an option for him.
Strident and Mikey are both closing in on him, both on those medium tyres.
Yeah, they're both going to go a lot longer than them soft tyres will. So as we are coming into lap 23 just about, nearing halfway through our race, if we run down the current positions, we've got Bannister in first place, Strident C in second, just Mikey in third, Steve-O in fourth, chasing down his rival Mikey, Chewy in fifth, Appleplex in sixth, Old Dad in seventh, Sega in eighth, CHM in ninth, Ted in 10th, Prev in 11th, and a letdown estate unfortunately DNF'd from this session.
Clearly a man after my own heart around this track.
Mikey.
Strident able to pull a 1 second gap to Mikey behind. Mikey looks like he might be struggling to stay with him, more so than in the first stint.
And to be fair, Strident did have a win back in Azerbaijan earlier this season, so he's not a string of good luck in regards to finishing a race, unfortunately. A few retirements early on, but he has had a third and a first in the two that he has made it through, so definitely proving that he's got the pace when he is there.
But currently we only have 4 drivers who have not been awarded any penalties. Old Dad's now up to 9 seconds.
We've got a little way to go to break my record.
Well, here at Wheel to Wheel, if you exceed 4 track limit penalties, for every penalty you get after that for track limit related incidents, you will lose a position in the final standings. So nobody at any real threat of that just yet. But something to bear in mind as we go deeper into this race.
Still astonished by Strident there, breaking the 1.6 seconds, 1.5 to Mikey now. Really is starting to bridge that gap out. He's given it everything he can do. Bear in mind, Mikey still doesn't have a penalty, so the 6 seconds that Strident has and the 3 that Bannister has definitely will play into it come these last couple of laps of the race.
And the Red Bull of Prev just getting out of the way because he came out the pits and he was in between Mikey and Steve-O, so he's got himself out of that battle. Just Mikey is dropping back from Strident, as Matt said. Steve-O's tyres are not likely to be in their prime anymore, so he'll be struggling to keep that gap to Mikey. Strident opening that gap from Mikey and is closing the gap to Bannister, now down to 2.5 seconds.
Needs to be careful, he doesn't want to catch Bannister too quickly, especially if he's going to try and keep those old softs going. He'll definitely hamper him. But yeah, Bannister up to 11 laps now on those softs, so you can imagine he would be in the next couple of laps anyway.
Further down, something to keep an eye on. Sega Cause fresh soft tires, closing right to the back of Old Dad's Rule. At DRS this lap, and he'll get it again down the main straight this lap.
Much on soft tyres, and he's got plenty of by the looks on it, it looks like Bannister and Mikey, they look to be setting the same sort of lap times. But Strident is just building his gap to Mikey and closing it to Bannister still.
While we are at a bit of a stalemate here between the drivers, I was just going to throw out a question to both you guys and just saying if there was any standout moments from the past Italian Grand Prix that we would say what stood out the most to you, your favourite ones.
I'm just on board with Sega now, who's looking to have a move on Old Dad's, but he runs out of VRS. He's used all of his deployment for that lap before he crossed the line, which just put him a step back. We see the exit of turn 2. Sega had a good exit, better than Old Dad's. And he's looking
using his overtake now.
Like a bit of collision there nearly between the two of them.
Yeah, a little bit of wheel banging there between Sega and old dads, but Williams driver is through.
Yeah, Sega has got the job done. Sorry, what was your question again, Allshot?
That's just throwing a question out there, just thinking if there were any standout particular moments over the past Monza Grand Prix that you can actually think of that, well, like your favourite moment to remember, really, in that sense, over the past seasons. In real life or in the league racing.
I mean, in real life, there's been quite a few. There was Ericsson in one of the practice sessions coming down the start-finish straight, and he had a brake failure after he slammed his ERS shut, and his DRS shut, sorry, and then that sort of shot him into the wall. But sorry, let's just go on board with Ted, who's got DRS down the main straight on CHM. CHM must have some phenomenal straight line speed because he's not closing that gap at all, but is he looking to have something done on the braking? And Ted gets the moves done into turn 1 on the inside.
As far as I can remember racing CHM back in the old few seasons ago, he's always used to run a very low down in the downforce setup, so he's always been hard to pass in a straight line, no matter what the track. He's been very good at that.
Yeah. And that's the great thing about league racing as well, because as you say, you just sort of, you get used to how your rivals drive, and each different driver brings a different challenge and how to pass them and how you treat them on track. And not that we treat them differently, but because most wheel-to-wheel drivers are some of the cleanest drivers I've met online.
No, yeah, definitely. Also,
You do, I'd say treat certain drivers differently, but treat everyone fairly.
Yes.
It's not always the same driver to driver. Some drivers have certain tendencies, but everyone in both AL1 and AL2 always clean and fair.
I think it's more
but different in their own ways.
You kind of get used to who's going to be the last on late breakers and who gets more penalties, and you can kind of judge it from there on, and who going to ride off the back of you round China for 30 laps to save their fuel. You get used to those drivers in your leagues.
Yeah, anybody watching who wanting to try or wanting to rejoin, hint hint, stealth, find us on Facebook, find us on our forum, Wheel2WheelRacing, and sign up on our website. All of our drivers are subject to an induction so that we can just see that they are a fair, clean driver. And yeah, some of the best 100% distance racing. There's not many leagues out there that are 100% distance. Doesn't seem to have the drivers with the longevity and the stamina to be able to do 100%, a full 22 calendar season.
On top of that, just the raw pace of some of the guys that we have in wheel-to-wheel racing. This league, we have some drivers who are very quick, and then AL1, it's a whole nother level of just ridiculousness. Some of the guys in there we have just getting close to world records in time trial and things like that. So some really top-level drivers, both in pace and driving etiquette, I'd say.
And yet we can still take it as seriously as we can, and yet everyone still has a laugh.
Yeah.
Well, it's still just a great fun. It's just playing a game, having a race of an evening, but you're also racing some of the closest and best racing you can get, from my own opinion, online.
I think if I could sum up wheel-to-wheel racing in one word, it would be friendly. Because you join some other leagues and it's a bit cutthroat. It's a bit aggressive. But here, like you say, you could be the fastest guy on track, the slowest guy on track, but generally it's fun, it's friendly. And now I'm beginning to wonder, how long is Bannister going to go on these softs?
I'm starting to think the Mercedes put a set of mediums on them and just sprayed them red. He's doing a very good job with those soft tyres. I have been keeping an eye on Strident's battery as well. Again, he's still getting every bit of that battery used every lap after lap, to keep where he is.
But both Bannister and Steve-O getting to that point with the soft tire. said the ideal window was somewhere between 16 and 20 laps. They're both in that range right now, so those softs will start falling away from them. So you see Strident within a couple seconds. Just for a brief moment there, those mediums will be feeling good for another dozen laps probably before they start falling away, so Bannister will have to do something here, whether it's defend the position or get in the pits and change tires again.
He's running a great race out the front by himself. He's just managing his tyres, as you say. A little bit loose on the exit of Ascari there from disturbed curb.
Difference in battery level as well. Like on board with Bannister here, I can see 84% has just gone up to as he breaks into Parabolica, and Strident sat down 14. Even Mikey nearly running 100%. So the way these guys are driving, the way they're pushing the car is completely different from one another. So I'm really looking forward to the second round of stops, seeing where they all come down to, and just how close they are at the end.
Stevo also managing them tyres well, but we have an off. Chewy. I missed what exactly happened there.
I missed it as well, but I can assume just based on where his car was, that he maybe got a little too frisky with the throttle coming out of that first chicane. It's a very easy corner to spin out of if you put a little too much throttle too early. And you know, Chewy is one of our drivers that runs no traction control, so very easy to make a mistake there, and that might have been what happened.
I didn't see any cars around him. I think there was a couple of gap behind, but it's unfortunate, one of the heaviest braking zones on the calendar.
Another great thing about Wheel2Wheel, it is a assists league, but you can run whatever assists you like, or whatever assists you don't want. So, as Matt says, Chewy is one of our drivers who choose to run low assists.
Hold that, it's just taking a couple of dips in the gravel there in Sector 2.
Steve-O is in the pits. Bannister now on lap 19 of them soft tyres.
Oh, and Old Dad's into the wall out of Ascari. Looks to be really struggling this lap. Said so in Sector 2, and it continued into Sector 3 on the exit of Ascari.
Oh, what happened there? He kind of retook the position from CHM, whether that flagged up as an illegal overtake for CHM and Old Dad's had to get the move back, or whether it was just a ballsy move around the outside.
So yeah, Steve-O going on to another set of mediums, so that should take him to the end, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Committing to that strategy there.
22 laps now to the end of the race. I mean, if Bannister pushes them softs anymore, you'd almost wish he was able to put another set of softs on to do the same again, but having already had a set of softs on,
yes. HM goes through, but just thinking about the strategy, there's not really a reason for Bannister to push those softs any further, because if you go on to the mediums now, you'll comfortably make it to the end.
Yeah.
So all he's doing is accumulating laps on those old tires when he could be switching to some fresh mediums, which he has to use at some point.
I was going to say sooner rather than later as well, considering the likes of Strident and Mikey and the rest of these guys on the mediums now, you would expect they're probably going to do their last stint on the softs, obviously, to get the most out of them.
Well, yeah, because Mikey could pit, say, 12 laps from the end for some softs, and they'll do quite well to the end. So he's going to be looking to pit around lap 41 as he picks up his first penalty. Going wide on the exit of the second Lesmos. Let's have a look.
Down to two drivers that don't have one now.
Yes.
Apoplex and CHM.
As
A
Steve
lovely
picks up
battle,
another.
including CHM here. Back and forth with Old Dads, and Old Dads gets a little bit on the grass. Turn 3. CHM able to take the place back into the second chicane. Great stuff between these two. This battle's been going on for a couple laps now.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the Bannister is now in finally off those softs.
Onto the mediums as expected for Bannister.
So he's coming out behind his teammate Appleplex. What? Oh, this is a lapped car coming up now with Prev.
Sega coming down the start line now, but Bannister should clear him into turn 1. Will do comfortably.
Old Dad's now on 12 seconds of penalties. If he gets another track limit penalty, he will be demoted a position in the final standings. As he moves to the inside and gets in front of CHM.
Must be a common thing seeing the Racing Points picking up penalties.
There's CHM with no penalties following behind Old Dad, so he's almost guaranteed that position if he can just maintain that gap behind him.
Oh, and Old Dad's is off.
Really struggling at the moment, Old Dad's.
Yeah, we've seen him just go off the track here and there just a little bit, but that mistake more costly than the rest all put together, as he was having a great battle with CHM, had the position, but he's throwing it all away now with that mistake.
It does show how hard these guys are pushing as well when they're racing. When they do just want to get ahead in that position, they give it everything they've got, and unfortunately, it can lead to pushing so hard that you do make those mistakes. I think we've all been there at least once.
Chewy setting the
Some of
fastest
us
lap.
more than once, unfortunately.
Preaching to the choir there.
Chewy setting a 122.8 on a fresh set of soft tyres. We now have Strident C back being our race leader, who was our pole sitter. He's built that gap to Mikey from 5 seconds from when they both pitted, and they was within a second of each other.
However, the penalty difference between them both is Strident on 9, Mikey on 3, so close in regards to penalties. He's going to need that 6-second gap if he wants to stay where he is at the end.
Yeah, as it stands, Mikey would inherit the win through penalties, as Mikey is in.
Mikey can go onto the softs and get those to the end at this point.
Yep.
He's going to need a really good undercut here on the fresh set of softs as well.
Well, the thing is, I
Strident's
think
gonna have to be ahead.
for getting Strident, he's going to be coming out behind Bannister, and he's going to have fresh tyres to chase him down. But look at that undercut. Bannister is well ahead of Mikey. Mikey coming out into traffic as well.
Oh, Steve-O right behind. You said Steve-O just having a low-key race, just hanging back, but still right there. And we know Steve-O has the pace to make something happen here.
Well, if he can hang with Mikey now, especially with Mikey's now going to start coming back through the field, he's going to want to close in on Bannister as well.
Mikey's going to run away in this second sector. He's got more downforce. He's got a lot of overtake. Soon he'll have the slipstream from Sega. He needs to get past Sega as soon as, or Sega needs to pit.
Yeah, Mikey also with the fresh sauce as opposed to Steve-O on the mediums. There's something strategists over there at Rhino will be happy with, is that Mikey will be on the quickest tire here for the last stint.
Yeah, Mikey approximately 7 seconds behind Bannister, with unsurprisingly purple sector 2. He's getting the move done early there, but that's going to give Sega the DRS.
Sega gets a good exit here. He could come back at him into turn 1, but he still a little bit wide there and a little loose.
Well,
Wonder if he might be too far back now to challenge Mikey into turn 1.
Mikey's still running a high battery as well, so he's got enough left to defend if he needs it.
And he's comfortably ahead into the first chicane, so Mikey making his way back through the field now. Bannister in front.
And Old Dad has retired.
Scary again by the looks of it. That final kink again has cost another racing point in their race.
Virtual safety car, not a full safety car.
Well,
just a VSC.
Let's hope these cars slow down enough and stick to their delta. I don't want to see anybody getting a drive-through at this point of the race.
Very interesting to see Old Dad's racing point is backwards on the track on the infield. So
Strident could be benefiting off of this now.
Oh, the VSC has just ended as well.
The VSC has ended at the worst time for Strident if it had just gone a few more seconds.
And he gets a 5-second penalty. Sega really benefited from that. Oh, but he had a bad exit on Ascari, and now he's got a lapped car between him and Mikey.
Strident's just gone straight through the pits. No stop. Did he ever drive through?
He may be speeding under the virtual safety car. That may have been
saw that we did have one pop up, and that was Prev, and he's serving that right now. I didn't see if Strident had one.
Well, the thing is that they all happen at the same time, don't they? Because it's when the VSC ends, so Strident could have had one at the same time.
Just have a quick look.
But that is really unfortunate for Strident if he got a drive-through and a 5-second speeding in the pits.
And he did, yeah, he got a drive-through penalty under the safety car. VSC, so unfortunately that's really going to ruin his afternoon.
That is such a fantastic race from Strident at the start with pole, leading most of the laps, regain the race lead, to fall through for penalties will be really unfortunate.
Could still be on the top 5 if he's careful.
That's pretty much erased his pit stop gap though that he had. But now, I don't know what to do if you're Strident.
Well, Mikey had a 7-second gap to Bannister. It's now down to 6.
Interesting thing, Bannister running more battery than Mikey at the moment, and both of them have only just one penalty. So it'll be very close when it comes down to the end. 14 laps to go.
They need track position to win over each other, as Mikey sets a fastest lap with a 1:22.
To throw an idea out there, Strident could take those mediums to the end. It is possible.
Yeah.
The maximum laps, according to Pirelli, that those mediums can do is 34 laps. So, looks like 33 laps will be what he needs to take those to the end.
We'll see Bannister down to racing point and let them know. Might be able to get informed then.
We've seen Bannister take the softs 19 laps, so the mediums should go further. But they probably won't be very quick come the end, and with the penalties he's got, he needs to be as far out front as he possibly can before.
I think for the constructor's side, taking the pits onto the fresh softs, leaving it as late as he can and going for possibly the fastest lap. There's only 10 drivers left, so he's guaranteed that top 10.
Yeah.
Trying to take that point away from the leaders.
Mikey now down to 4.2 seconds. He is closing that gap rapid as he sets another fastest lap with a 1:22.4.
Bannister's going to start getting into that dirty air as well at the racing point as he gets closer and closer. It'll be interesting to see if he can clear him quick enough to try and keep that gap to Mikey. I just want to point out as well, just quietly at the front there, Apoplex just doing his own thing on his mediums, keeping it clean. 4-second gap to the guys behind. Another stop to go, but he's just enjoying himself.
Well,
Apoplex could take those to the end as well.
Yeah. So we could have a one-stop winner.
And you have to think, if they were going to pit, the two at the front, Appleplex and Strident, they would have done it by now. Because at this point, if you were going to go onto the softs, you would have already done it as the others have. Because they can easily go the 13-14 laps that we have left.
If he does take him to the end, that is Mercedes once again showing their strategic prowess where it matters most.
Well, Bannister is closing that gap, is nearly in DRS range of Strident, which will help him defend this threat from Mikey behind.
Another important thing that might come into play, Appleplex, with this strategy, if he does stay out, keep that track position, he also has no penalties. He's the only driver in the top 8 with no penalties. So as long as he stays up there, maybe not even in the lead on track, but just with that pack, he could be on for a really good result here, Appleplex.
Probably going to need to stay out of those grapple tracks as well. He dips the 2 wheels into the gravel there on the second chicane.
Yeah, as it stands, Strident would drop to about 5th. Oh, I say that. We've got everybody else's penalties to apply, so Steve-O will then drop 6 seconds also.
That's what I'm saying, Strident's still on for a top 5. He's had an unfortunate second lap of the race, but still a good show. And you can say that the gap of them, top has gone down 4 seconds last lap to 2.8, so they're all catching Appleplex very quickly.
Yeah, Bannister's dropped back from Strident now, and Mikey's closing that gap even more. Another second off the time, now down to 2 seconds. It's all going to depend if Appleplex and Strident pit, because they could stay out.
As the laps go by, though, I think it becomes more clear that they're not going to.
I don't know, sometimes I like to have round numbers, and I'd just pick with 10 laps to go. And we're not quite at 10 laps from the end. And anything could still happen.
I mean, it's nice to know your strategy going forward. Even though they are far ahead, Mikey's only on 5 lap old softs and Bannister's only on 7 lap old mediums, so less than half of what the guys are in front. They could still catch him by the end of the race. It's going to be close.
And
Mikey's cut the gap down so quickly to Bannister. It was several seconds, but now he's right around that 1 second window. He could be getting DRS as Bannister gets a little loose on the exit of Ascari, and Mikey will have DRS by the looks of it.
Yeah, that straight line speed of Bannister's Mercedes, though, will be something to tame, as Mikey's not quite got as much overtake as he normally does, and we have a yellow flag in sector 1, which is one of the Williams.
Head. I think he had a moment through the chicane, just like old Daz did. That chicane is catching quite a few people out today. Traction very limited on the exits, so gravel trap just there as well, not too much room for a mistake.
Mikey had his DRS open, but I couldn't see if he was using his overtake at the time.
Just want to point out as well, Chewy, just 2.2 off the back of Steve-O, giving everything he's got. He's had a very quiet day as well, but he's bringing it back in with those softs.
Yeah, but he's
not
got
much
less
fuel, not much battery, but he's still trying.
less penalties than Steve-O.
And important for Bannister here is he's gotten within DRS range of the racing point in front, so that will help him close the gap there, but also help him defend against Mikey, who's charging behind with those fresh soft tires.
All of the top 4 as well now in one camera shot going into Ascari. They've all started to close in on Appleplex very quickly.
Strident now on 23 lap old mediums.
Bannister still sitting on a very high battery deployment. Again, Strident still using everything he can every lap.
very tight battle here for second place, and it might all be for first place.
So if we were to say who finishes the line, crosses the line first on track, who would you put your money on, guys, at the moment?
I think Mikey stands the best chance at the moment.
I do think Mikey as well.
His biggest challenge is Bannister, because Bannister has got the pace, albeit he's on a harder compound. He's got the pace and he's got the straight line speed. Strident's unfortunately got too many penalties, and Appleplex stands a really good chance, but he has got that tyre wear to consider.
Oh, Bannister just has to back out there.
If you don't include penalties, I'll say I'm still holding out for Strident. He's done a really good afternoon. He's done everything correct. Unfortunately, he did get the drive-through behind the VSC.
Gap to Appleplex now down to 1.5, and Bannister goes really deep through.
Oh, Mikey has an opportunity here. Mikey could be going for a double overtake.
Fantastic move there, and Strident might be under threat from Bannister from the outside, but Strident sends it down the inside. Is there contact? There is, and there's contact again with the Mercedes.
Bit of Mercedes end plate flew off there by the looks of it. Bannister may have taken a bit of front wing damage.
He has, he's lost his right end plate.
It's a good job I'm not a betting man, because right now I'll be paying you both.
Oh, what a move from Mikey though, getting both those moves done, not wasting any time, and Strident and Bannister still going at it.
Well, Bannister will be suffering now with that wing damage.
Mikey's already on the back of Appleplex with DRS going down into Ascari already, wasting no time getting these moves done.
All shot, just give me my money. Oh, Strident gets another penalty. Ooh, and the Bannister went very loose on the exit of Ascari there.
Look at Mikey. Has a look at the inside. It's a Parabolica, but he just stays patient as he knows he'll get DRS down the main straight and the best overtaking opportunity on the track into turn 1. He's got DRS, he's got a good bit of overtake to work with, but he's well in front of Appleplex.
Appleplex still going strong here for a P2. Come the end of the race, no penalties, with the guys around still holding the penalties. He's definitely going to be on the podium.
As Chewy makes it past Steve-O. He was talking earlier about Chewy and Steve-O, and he's just made a move.
Bannister coming back at Strident again.
Appleplex
Strident just closes the door.
Oh no, Appleplex picks up his first penalty, as Allshot just said. CHN the only driver to have no penalties, like some people from Wednesday. Mikey now 1.6 seconds ahead of Appleplex. Bannister really fighting that position with Strident.
Bannister still being very conservative on his battery deployment, sitting at around 60%. Everyone else, the front three, running at 40-20 and 115, so he really does have the power that he can use to try and clear Strident. He's got the extra horsepower behind him.
I think his wing damage is probably on the better side from Monza as well, because we've got 7 turns to the right and 4 to the left, and your end plate, losing your right end plate will hurt you on your left hand corners, so less of them than there are rights, as we've got a yellow flag in sector 2, and I think that is Ted. Ted is around. And who's that coming up behind Ted? Is that CHN? Yeah. Seen Ted get a penalty or 2 recently, so he seems to be suffering as he's very loose on Ascari. He's now got 15 seconds of penalty, so it looks like he may be dropping a position at the end of the race. Ooh, oh no! And hits the outside wall on Parabolica, very similar to Leclerc in the 2020 race as he comes into pit.
And he gets up a 5 second as well for speeding in the pit lane.
Owen is retired. So he's giving up.
Team decision there.
Well, that will unfortunately mean a super license point, as that's one of the rules at Wheel2Wheel. If you was to retire into the pits, you are awarded a super license point.
Sure, I learned something there.
It's to try and prevent people from just backing out of a race when they know they're going to be finishing out of the points.
Yeah. I mean, it's embarrassing to admit that, considering I've been doing this for maybe 7 seasons.
Well, no, but it's not that embarrassing because it proves that you don't just quit races. Because you've never been given a point.
It's normally a last lap DNF for me. Make it entertaining.
So now 9 drivers left in this race. Bannister still trying to find that position from Strident. He will be awarded the position come the end with the penalty difference if he just maintains the gap as it is.
It looks like Strident's trying to come back at Appleflex just to try and get that track position. Gap down for just under 2 seconds now, so last minute push here from Strident just to try and salvage something here today.
And I'll tell you who might be on for a podium here, and that's Chewy. As we see the penalty situation, the 2 up front, both with 3 seconds. But Strident with 17, Bannister with 6 seconds.
Although
Strident will likely fall back.
Chewy has 3 himself, so at the moment he won't be taking that position from Bannister as it stands. But Bannister is looking to take the position from Strident as it comes round Curve Le Grande on the inside. And he's got the job done. Oh, and there's a bit of contact.
So it shows how hard Chewy is pushing. He's had that little yellow fuel light on for the last couple of laps now, so running it dangerously close to get to the end on his fuel lane.
Chewy on soft tires though, which is why all he needs to do is close about 6/10 or so.
Strident with DRS coming back at Bannister, and he gets in front before Ascari.
Both of these guys squabbling here are definitely going to help Chewy. Really are going to help Chewy get on that podium.
That'll help Chewy a lot as Bannister had to go onto the gravel.
Yeah, there was contact as they went into Ascari, which pushed Bannister out wide onto the gravel. Sorry, go on, I'll shut.
I was just saying, sorry. Yes, giving the Tifosi something to cheer about in these last couple of laps, definitely.
Go on, Chewy.
Where did Chewy start again?
Let's have a look, see.
Somewhere in the middle of the field, I believe.
Well, Chewy, he started in 5th because he's got no positions gained. Mikey is the biggest gainer with 5 places gained.
One hell of a race to show for it as well.
Yeah.
Chewy really pushing here. He's locking up his brakes again into that second chicane. He really wants that position. He wants that top 3.
Yeah,
and as we say all the time, Chewy knows at this point that he'll get that position ahead of Bannister with the penalty situation, but any driver wants to get it on the track as well, not just in the final classification. You want to make that overtake, show that you are the quicker driver.
Yeah, but I'm not so sure Chewy's race is actually with Bannister on the track. His race is probably now with his tyres and the wear, because he's ran them tyres for 16 laps. His fuel light is now off, meaning he's been saving fuel as he's been going round. So
talk about tyre life. Strident, Appleflex and even Fred all running 25 plus laps on those mediums.
Chewy looking to have a move here on Bannister.
Bannister still suffering with that wing damage, as you can see his end plate missing. Oh, and he's locked up, but he's kept the position in turn 1 with some great driving with Chewy's minimal assists. I got that excited I forgot which button I was pressing then. It will be a good day for Ferrari if we can see that red on the podium.
Just jump back on board for Mikey for the last lap. He's taking it easy. He knows he's got it all under control. Nice battery saved up. He's got his fuel okay. He's just going to take this run into the end. I think no issues there. Trident 1.6 off the back of Apoplex now as well, so he really does want to pass that car on track. After everything today, he still wants to cross the line in second.
Has been a roller coaster of a day for Strident, hasn't it? It's looked like the race was in his hands for a large portion of it. Now just fighting to keep that third position on track, maybe looking to move up into second.
Well, let's not forget that Strident had a drive-through. So had he not had that drive-through and then the 5-second speeding in the pits, he would still have his other penalties, but he would be possibly 10 seconds further down the road.
He'd be in a much better position on track, that is for sure.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you've gained a few penalties, you sort of begin to lose your concentration a little bit and you're pushing harder to try and make that gap up, and you end up with more penalties.
From someone who does on a regular basis, I can definitely agree with that. You definitely do. You get to that point where you switch off and you just want to push to try and either race the guys around you and enjoy what you're doing, or you do just want to make the gap up on track, and unfortunately it can cause you to gain more.
So Mikey crossing the line to start the final lap of the Italian Grand Prix. He's looking like he's going to be taking his first race win since the opening race of the season back in Australia.
Yeah, Mikey's only had that one race win, but he is our championship leader. He's been on the podium all but 4 races so far this season, and already about 2/3 of the way through the season, so that's really impressive. Consistency from Mikey.
Yep, last 13 races, he's missed out on that top step, but he's looking like this is his step. Ooh, Strident going very deep as he's still trying to chase down Apoplex. Chewy very close behind.
And just to throw it out there, Apoplex will have his best career finish season to date, matching it actually with his second place last time out in Belgium.
Yeah, and even though he does have a penalty now, he's other than CHM, I think he's his second best driver on track at the moment for warnings and penalties. But we watch now Mikey come round Parabolica, and he's weaving for the excitement as he wins the Italian Grand Prix.
It looks like Strident's run out of fuel across the line. Strident crossing the line in 4th, gets dropped lower down the penalties, but very close across the line there between Bannister and Strident on track.
Oh, and he drops behind Stevo also.
Chewy does get that top 3. Definitely giving something that's supposed to cheer about this afternoon.
So just waiting for the final 2 cars to come around the track. What a Grand Prix that was.
What a drive from Mikey, our championship leader, showing his skills starting further back than he would have wanted down in the midfield, but
yeah, I think he started in 6th.
Strategy, yeah, I think it was 6th. And combination of strategy and just consistency as he's had all season, being able to let the race come to him, not making any mistakes and making the overtakes when he needed to. A really great drive from Mikey. He will extend his championship lead.
Yeah, and his two closest rivals not on the podium. That will make a big difference.
Chewy getting that third place definitely does help with the fight for the constructors as well. Renault definitely taking more points away today, but Chewy definitely trying to keep that fight up there for Ferrari.
And just Mikey with driver of the day, which I think is very well earned there.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
So I think we'll see if we can get some of them in for post-race interview as we're watching the podium there. Just Mikey, Appleplex and Chewy having some well-deserved celebrations there, and we will run down our final standings for the Italian Grand Prix. So in first we have Just Mikey, in second we have Appleplex, third is Chewy, fourth is Bannister, fifth is Stevo, sixth is Strident after them unfortunate penalties that he had to pick up. Strident, Sega Takaz in seventh, CHM in eighth, and Prev was in ninth. All the rest of the cars DNF'd, which was Ted in 10th, Old Dads in 11th, and a Letdown Estate in 12th. So we'll now just see if we can get anybody in for a post-race interview.
And while we're waiting to get those drivers in, I will just like to quickly add in there, it's been an absolute pleasure to join you two guys this evening. Thank you very much for having me along.
No, pleasure to have a very competent third commentator in with us.
But yeah, as far as it goes, I've had a bit of a system issue, so unfortunately at the moment I have got nothing in front of me in regards to standings, anything like that.
No, you've done more than well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this three-way that we had today in the commentary.
So are we being joined by anybody for a post-race interview?
Let's just give it another minute. You know, Mikey didn't want to do one last week. We'll try to convince him this week.
Yeah,
unlike the drivers in the real Formula One, they're not contractually obligated to do these interviews.
So there we have it, all shot. Me and Matt was quite happy with our prediction for Mikey coming through to take the top step there.
One of the many reasons why I'll never go to Vegas, guys. I'll tell you that.
Normally I've got the commentator's curse.
I can't help but rooting for the guy in pink, like I do in real life. I just can't help but root for those racing points.
Well, it was an outstanding drive from Appleplex and Strident. It was unfortunate for his penalties, but a great position for Chewy to be in to pick up that third and final podium step. But I mean, still also great drive from Bannister. Good battles there throughout. Him and Strident, unfortunately taking a little bit of damage which might have impeded his chances at taking one of them top steps.
And it definitely showed the difference in strategy as well. So many drivers doing similar strategies, but not on the same lap. Normally you see in the real life racing where they follow next lap in to cover each other off on the pits, but there were gaps of like 5-6 laps. The drivers staying out.
Well, that was it.
Undercutting each other over stuff, and it was brilliant.
Appleplex on a one stop there, and he takes the second step on the podium, and not by much. He wasn't very far behind Mikey, who opted for the two stop.
Managed to chase down any of those drivers yet, Mathieu?
Well, doesn't look like they'll be joining us.
Gone back to their motorhomes already, have they?
Yeah, I guess we will wrap things up. It was an exciting Italian Grand Prix. Our championship leader, Mikey, able to extend his lead in the championship standings with his first race win since week 1 in Australia. So a great race for him. And anything else you guys want to add? Highlights of the day?
It was just a great, fantastic race. Full of action, full of plenty close racing. Nobody could have predicted that finish. Yeah, all shot.
Standout for me there was definitely the move from Chewy down into turn 1, as he had Strident coming out the pits on one side, passing the car on the left as well, managed to slot his Renault straight down into the middle, make the move where he needed to count, and it clearly paid off. He got ahead of that racing point. Had a bit of a squabble, but he's come out on top at the end.
Yeah, a lot of great moves in this race, and we go from the Temple of Speed to the streets of Singapore. Next week we're back in Asia, and we'll be under the lights at Singapore next Friday. So we hope that you will all join us for that one. We really enjoyed the Italian Grand Prix today, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for watching, everybody.
Thanks. Stay safe.